Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to review classifying triangles as well as congruent triangles, angles of triangles, isosceles triangles, and equilateral triangles. So we'll start by graphing this triangle. So we have -3, 1, left 3, and up 1, 0, 4, 3, 1. Okay, so we want to classify the triangle by its sides, so we'll start with that. So this side right here has a length of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. Okay, so let's find these two lengths and see if any of them are the same. So here we have -3, 1 and 0, 4. So let's use the distance formula to find that exact length. So the distance, and we'll label these as A and B, and then this one is C. So the length of segment AB is the square root of x minus x squared, -3 minus 0 squared, plus y minus y squared, 1 minus 4 squared. Okay, so that's -3 squared, which is 9. And then another -3 squared, which is 9. So it's the square root of 18. I'm not going to worry about simplifying it. I'm going to move on to finding the length of segment CB. Okay, I do know, by the way, though, that the square root of 18 is not 6. So these two are not the same. So it's definitely not equilateral. Okay, now C is at 3, 1. So the distance of CB is the square root of x minus x, 3 minus 0 squared, plus y minus y, 1 minus 4 squared. Okay, 3 minus 0 squared is 3. Squared is 9. 1 minus 4 is -3. Squared is 9. So we get the square root of 18 again. So I have two sides that are the same length. That makes this isosceles. So we have an isosceles triangle. Now tell whether it is a right triangle. Now these two angles here, because they're across from congruent sides, I know they are congruent, and I can also tell by looking they are definitely acute angles. The question is, what about this over here? Is this a right angle? So let's count the slope. So the rise is 3, the run is 3. So the slope of segment AB is 3 over 3, which is 1. Okay, the slope here, it's falling. So the slope of segment CB is negative. It's got a rise of 3 and a run of 3. So that's -1. Now, the question is, if this is going to be a right angle, are these two slopes opposite and reciprocals? Let's look at the fraction versions here. Do they have opposite signs? Yep, one's positive, one's negative. Are they also flipped? So are they reciprocals? 3 over 3, if I flip that, I get 3 over 3. So these two are opposite reciprocals, which means, yes, it is a right triangle. If these are not opposite reciprocals, I'm just going to write not right. Number 2, 3, -4. So there's A, 6, 2, there's B, and 3, 2, there's C. Now on this one I can clearly see no two sides are the same length. I'm going to call it scalene. Up here, if all three were the same, I would have called it equilateral instead of isosceles. So those are the three options: isosceles, scalene, and equilateral. Okay, now, is it a right triangle? I've got a vertical line and a horizontal line, and vertical and horizontal lines are always perpendicular. So there's my right angle. It is right. Okay, so up here I had a right angle here, so it's a right. Here I've got a right angle here, so it's a right. Given that these two triangles are congruent, and it's in corresponding order, A corresponds with D, B with E, and C with F, find the values of X and Y. All right, so X is on this side right here, on side AC. So that's the first and last letters, which means it corresponds with the first and last letters here, D, F. So these two sides correspond with each other. So that means that on these congruent triangles, these two sides are congruent. So I can say that 2x plus 8 is equal to 4x plus 2. And I can subtract 2x, and I can subtract 2, and I get 6 equals 2x. And then I can divide by 2 and get x is 3. Okay, now 5y plus 10, that's on angle F, and angle F corresponds with angle C, and I don't have anything on angle C. But I know that a triangle makes 180 degrees. So if I subtract 50 and 55, so 180 minus 50 and minus 55, I get 75. So I know this angle right here is 75 degrees. So now I can put these two together. 5y plus 10 equals 75. Subtract 10, 5y equals 65, and divide by 5. And I get 13. Okay? So on my next triangle, I have an exterior angle, and an exterior angle is always equal to the sum of the two remote, which means not right next to it, the two remote interior angles. So the exterior angle, 6x minus 7, is equal to 2x plus 103 minus x. Okay, so I can combine my like terms over here. 6x minus 7 equals 2x minus x is x plus 103. Okay, so then I can get the x's on the same side, so minus x and plus 7 will get my constants on the right. So I get 5x equals 110, and then divide by 5. Okay, so 110 divided by 5 is 22. So there's my final answer. Now, here's a quick way to check that. I can put that 22 here and add them together. So 2 times 22 plus 103 minus 22 is 125. That should be the same as this. 6 times 22 minus 7 is 125. So I know my answer of 22 is correct for x. Find the values of x and y. So in this triangle, I know two of the angles. So let's do 180 minus 110 minus 25, and that will get me the third angle of this triangle. 180 minus 110 minus 25, and that gives me 45. So I know this is 45 degrees. Okay? So now I have three angles right here that when I combine the three, they appear to make a straight line. So that's 180 degrees. So for this, I can do 180 minus 45 and 90. So I get 45. So this is 45 degrees. So that actually gives me y. So y is 45. Okay, now I have a right triangle here with a 90 and a 45. So 180 minus 90 minus 45. And that sounds familiar because I just did that. So I get another 45. So this angle is 45 degrees. So x is 45. For number 6, find the value of x and the measure of each angle. So angle V is already given at 30, so I don't need that over here, but I need a value of x, a measure of angle U, and a measure of angle W. So we need to remember again that a triangle always adds up to 180 degrees. So 6x plus 4x plus 30 equals 180. I have like terms here, so I have 10x plus 30 equals 180. And now I can subtract 30. So 10x is 150. And I can divide by 10. And these zeros drop off, and I get 15 over 1, so x is 15. Okay, so this angle right here is 4 times 15. And this one is 6 times 15. So 4 times 15 and 6 times 15 are 60 degrees and 90 degrees. Okay, so it may not look like 90 degrees, but we just did the math and found out that this is 90 degrees. So the measure of angle U is 60 degrees. The measure of angle W is 90 degrees. Classify this triangle by its sides and angles. I see two sides congruent. So is it scalene, isosceles, or equilateral? Those are the options. Two sides congruent is isosceles. 0 sides congruent would be scalene. 3 sides congruent would be equilateral. Okay, now classify it by its angles. Is it acute? Is it obtuse? Is it right? Is it equiangular? So this looks like it's obtuse, but let's just be sure. A triangle is 180. Take away the two 20-degree angles. So that's 180 minus 20, which is 160, minus another 20 is 140. So this is 140 degrees, and that is definitely an obtuse angle. So the triangle is obtuse. If this was less than 90, and so are these, then it would be acute. If these were all the same, then it would be equiangular. Here we have a triangle with two congruent angles, and when there are two congruent angles, that means the sides across from those angles are congruent to each other. So we have an isosceles triangle. Okay, so that means these two sides are congruent, so 3x plus 48 is equal to 5x minus 3x. So I get 48 equals 2x, and divide by 2, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. So x is 24. Now let's just check that. 3 times 24 plus 48 is 120. 5 times 24 is also 120. Okay, so if x is 24, these two sides are in fact congruent, so that means this is the correct answer. And last up, find the value of x. So we are given an equilateral triangle. An equilateral triangle is also always an equiangular triangle, so all three of these are the same. You may already know the value or the measure of each angle, but here's how we find it. They have to add up to 180. If all three are the same, I can divide by 3 and get 60 degrees. So I've got a triangle whose angles are 60, 60, and 60. So that means that 18x minus 48 is equal to 60. Now add 48. 18x equals 108. And divide by 18. 108 divided by 18 is 6. So x is 6.